Remember, this show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two.
Today, a full recap of the London 2012 team finals in women's artistic gymnastics, a commissioned episode we revisit. Yes, we all have that music stuck in our head now. It is September 2nd, 2025, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica Spencer from the Valencian Situation. Let us begin, Spencer, with the brief from Club Gym Nerd member Jasmine.
Jasmine says, I would like a recap of the absolutely legendary competition, the 2012 Women's Olympic Team Final, specifically with attention to pressing thoughts and questions, including, did the USA have the best vault rotation ever? Gross commentary. a broad category we will get into. We have many nominees for gross commentary.
We will indeed.
The concept of E-scores in the nines on events besides vault. Could Russia have defeated the USA? The decline of China and their failure to medal, and Aly's floor.
Yes.
Great fodder. I think it's time. It's time for the 2012 Olympics to revisit. It's been long enough that it feels like it's part of a different era. So you can kind of go back with a retrospective monocle on and see, like, what was that like? Oh, yeah, huh.
I love a retrospective monocle. I also love the fact that Jasmine said, no, not to waste time on any predators or enablers who may have been on the floor for these purposes of this episode. They do not exist. This is just about gymnastics. Yes! This is my favorite thing. Thank you, Jasmine, for that. Also, Club Gym Nerd members like Jasmine help us pay our bills, and in return, they get thank you goodies like a whole extra live podcast once a week. It's a live Q&A podcast, or you can send your questions in ahead of time. You can add it to your favorite podcast player. And then we have live meet reports from competitions like the upcoming World Championships in Jakarta, where they just had some riots. So it's going to be great, you guys. And also first dibs and discounts on live show tickets and merch, including we have shorts now. Spencer, I know you're very excited to get your shorts so you can be head to toe gymnastic outfit.
Do they say gymnastic on the butt?
They don't. Oh my God.
Oh, well, then what's the point?
No, I know. You also get competition dossiers. We have one of those coming up for Worlds in Jakarta. You get judging cheat sheets and also access to our new game, Headstand. It's super fun. We've played it a couple times on the show now to show you guys. And you can access all those by joining gymcastic.com under the Join the Club tab or play fantasy because you might win one of these commissions. So let's get right into it. Spencer.
Let's do it. Okay, so just for refreshing purposes, what was this meet again? Who was there? What happened? London Olympics. The year was 2012. The podium was pink. Heading in, the U.S. and U.S. women's team, Jordan Weber all-around, had won gold at the 2011 World Championships. Before that, the Russian women's team and Aly Mustafina in the all-around had won gold in 2010. So that was the big clash we were setting up heading in. Spoiler alert, because it happened 13 years ago, so you don't get a spoiler alert. That's just information. Gold medal in this competition, the 2012 women's team final, the United States team of Jordan Weber, Gabby Douglas, Aly Raisman, McKayla Maroney, and Kyla Ross. Silver to the Russian team of Victoria Komova, Aly Mustafina, Anastasia Grishina, Ksenia Afanasieva, and Maria Paseka. Bronze to the Romanian team, because that was still a thing that was happening, to Larissa Iordache, Sandra Izbasha, Catalina Ponor, Diana Bulimar, and Diana Kalaru. Fourth place, commiserations to the Chinese team of Sui Lu, Donglin Lin, He Kexin, Yao Jinan, and Huang Chushuang. Other legends also in this competition. Beth Tweddle was here on the host British team. A young upstart named Elsabeth Black, who just goes by Elsabeth, definitely. On the Canadian team, Vanessa Ferrari here on the Italian team. So it was a great competition. Legends abound.
Yeah, Victoria Moores and her Moores. Oh, yeah. And her floor routine. What is the first thing that you think of when you think back to the 2012 team final? Not the whole London Games.
Okay, just what we're talking about today, 2012 team final. Yes. I mean, the first thing is Maroney's vault. Maroney sticking, iconic vault. One of the, like, if you were to, I'm not going to say it's on the level of, like, Nadia gets the 10 in 1976 in terms of cultural significance, but if you talk about
should be.
It should be. Yeah. Most memorable single routines in gymnastics history. If you had to create a list of top 5, I feel like Maroney sticking that vault in the 2012 team final would be on my top 5 list.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Spending a lot of time making fun of the name Fierce 5 is something that comes to mind, because I feel like I spent a lot of time on that. That home song that you alluded to, that Philip song that NBC, if you didn't watch the NBC broadcast, you have I feel like no reference point unless you went back and watched that on YouTube. But that song that they played every 15 seconds during this Olympics for those gymnasts is it's in the head, and it could never possibly be extracted.
And now it's stuck there again from doing this rewatch. They played it so many times.
If you gave me the prompt, you have to describe the 2012 Olympic team final in 10 seconds, I would be like, okay, McKayla Maroney sticks that vault. Jordan Weber gets 100 on every routine and isn't sad anymore. And then Anastasia Grishina went on floor, and then you're gonna make this place your home. That's the 2012 team final. End of 10 seconds done.
The Grishina, the head flop round off is that's one of, besides what you've mentioned, that's one of my lasting memories. The all pink, it is a, what is it? What's the stuff you take for diarrhea that's pink?
Pepto-Bismol.
It's Pepto-Bismol pink. And at first I hated it. Now I totally love it. So that, and also what I remember a lot is my rage against the age narrative that was still going on, because half the event medalists were 20 or above. And some of the highest scores that were competed here, like Beth Tweddle, 27 on bars. Hekashin was 20. Dang and Sue were both 20. Panor on floor at 24. Ishbasha, 22, one vault gold. Those things are I just remember being so angry about that stuff at the time. And just
almost
constant.
like you were so angry you wanted to start a podcast.
Yes, this is what this Olympics inspired me to finally start a podcast. Also, this is one of the Olympics, for a long time, I would always get invited to from our adult gymnastics class, we'd all watch gymnastics together, or we'd go to there's the one, gay bar karaoke place, and we would go there and watch that was nearby. And the 2012 the Olympics, where I was finally I don't want to watch this with anybody else. I am staying at home with 12 computers open and watching
your Spencer
this.
Olympics.
Yeah, I was I am tired of people interfering, yelling something, not. And I remember at one Olympics, our neighbors got mad, at us yelling at the TV at 8:00 at night on a whatever, Olympic day it was. And I literally was I yelled out the window, because this is the kind of apartment complex it was. I listen to you every Sunday for the entire football season yelling. You can handle this for one goddamn night every 4 years. And then the security came and knocked on the door. So anyway.
Great.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's one of the things I remembered. And then hating Al Troutwig's commentary so deeply that I had to start a podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically,
I feel like I haven't gotten any notes that I tried to dress to match the London podium today, and I haven't gotten any feedback. Did it work?
Oh, you did. I see. You have pink stripes on your shirt. Oh, I'm so proud
I tried to
of
dress
you.
thematically.
That is the correct way to wear pink, with a gray or black and just as an accent, in my personal opinion.
Noted. Thank you.
Yeah. Unless you're Nastia, obviously. Okay, so basically this London Olympics, inspirational for me, is what I'm basically.
A defining Olympics.
Yeah.
So we'll go into the rotations in a second. We'll go deep. But I wanted to do some establishing reflective questions, maybe some fodder for discussion. So
yeah.
One, what is a memory you have of this competition that turned out to be totally wrong when you just rewatched it this weekend to prepare for this episode, where you were like, oh, wait, that happened?
I remember being kind of Aly's form on her Patterson, or so the dismount, round off, double Arabian dismount for Aly, and off beam. And I remember being like, oh my God, her form. But I remember Komova's, I was just like, oh, Komova's beam is perfect. But I forgot that Komova also, she had a Patterson and it was so cowboyed. And also it was terrifying. She flipped like directly over the beam and then somehow trajectoried herself away so she didn't land on the beam. But rewatching it, I was like, ah! Like should be flipping when she has cleared the beam. So that was one thing that I did not remember at all.
So it's typically in theme, because we usually, when we have this discussion, it's one of my favorite ones where we're like, because our nostalgia will say like, the form on the dance elements in the 80s was so far superior to today. And then you watch it and you're like, no. Yeah. So it's kind of in that vein. Like, Russia
I was just like
form, and then you like see Mustafa's twisting or like
Coma's just
like, okay.
What? And then in my memory, okay, and this is debatable, but in my mind, Russia had a total meltdown. And I know.
I mean, I think your mind is right.
And like, okay, I know like Paseka fell off the mat on vault, but Kamo fell off the mat on beam. Mustafa almost fell on beam. You know, Grishina did her head plant
on floor. Yeah,
right. All of the things, but I thought it was worse than that.
Okay,
like I thought it was way worse. And then the other thing I guess is that like it wasn't even close. Like, and it wasn't even close in the end. But I guess like that no one else had a chance after vault, and that wasn't actually true that no one had a chance after vault. That's the thing I guess I mean. Like if you look at the end score, it's like no one else. They won by almost 2 points, right? But it's I just thought no one could get close, and it really wasn't true. Like the U.S. would have had to open the door somewhere. Russia was amazing. Russia had 2 Amanars. Like they were a great Russian team.
And
how about you?
Yeah, I agree about like the memory being that things that happened later had already started, like the U.S. winning being a foregone conclusion, hadn't really started yet, or like Romania's downfall hadn't really started yet because they won bronze, and so it's that kind of thing. But also how much I'm affected by NBC narrative, even when I'm very aware that I'm being force-fed a storyline and don't want to be. Like, in my head, I'm like, Jordan Weber had the most amazing meet in the entire world. She came back from not making the all-around final, and she carried the team to a gold medal. And I'm like, okay, watching it, Jordan had a good meet. Vault and floor were very good overall. Bars was a little iffy. She didn't do beam in the team final, but also she was the lowest scoring member of the US team on all 3 of her events. Like, she was a very solid, necessary team component in that final, but the idea that she was the, like, she came back and was the triumphant star who carried the team, like, Gabby got a higher score than Jordan on every event that Jordan did. But that's purely like the narrative that we created. NBC was like, this is the storyline we're going with. And even though I was aware of it at the time and aware of it now and didn't want to be, it's still in my head. I'm like, yeah, Jordan Weber had the perfect meet and carried the team to gold, obviously.
Also, it's like one of those things looking back where like it's that whole thing is like, it's just so sad for, she's the reigning world champion. This is so sad for her, and she's, could do so well, and she's not. But it's like, yeah, she's competing with a broken leg. A fractured leg. Like, of course she's not up to her best. And of course she wouldn't take that as an excuse, I'm sure. But a broken leg, break them all. I will still do gymnastics and win. But I think it's one of those things at the time that, like, everyone was hiding all the injuries, which, we know that obviously still goes on, and no one wants to know it. But it's like, God, she did amazing. Maroney and her did amazing for both having broken bones at this competition and getting through it. So, yeah.
Okay, next question. Similar vein, but opposite. What is something about this competition that you had completely memory hold and had no recollection of whatsoever until you rewatched it now?
In my mind, Gabby's beam was absolutely perfect. Like, you could have given her a 10. And then rewatching it, I was like, oh,
you were watching with Spanny Tamsin colored glasses. Yes. That's what we call it. When you're like, Gabby did everything perfect and got a 10 execution score, obviously.
Right. Gabby Godzilla. What did Spanny Tamsin call her? Godzilla, Butter Statue. She had many complimentary names for her. Anyway, so her beam, she does like a switch, and she has to kind of like turn her hips to stay on the beam. And it is like a split second, but I didn't remember that. And then also NBC did not point it out. Like every mistake that Russia made, they pointed out.
Well,
and
yeah,
like
of course,
Gabby,
yeah.
they said nothing when she did that little oop to the side. And then she had a big step on her dismount, which was beautiful, but it was a big step. And I was like, oh, wait, in my mind, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
There was, yeah.
I
What
feel
about you?
like for me, watching the NBC broadcast, and I watched both NBC and World Feed and then a little bit of Canada, which was Kyle Schufeld's commentary on the Canadian feed is my recommended, if you can find that one. Of all, I watched all of them. I watched all the different broadcasts. That's the winner, if you can find the whole thing. So Aly Raisman hyperextending her leg and then landing on her neck in the floor warm-up. I'm like, wait, where was I? And I think where I was on the live World Feed, not the NBC primetime broadcast, because I have no memory of that happening whatsoever. And it's a really scary fall. It was
terrifying. I remember that and I was like, oh shit, she's out. She has whiplash. Like there's no, like that's it. I was like, that she's done. But of course, like, of course that didn't happen. Of course she kept competing. But yeah, I remember that too. And I was like, oh, her meet's over. It's a Sam Peshek and Memel in Beijing all over right before in the warm-up and couldn't go out and compete. Yeah, I remember that and thinking, oh no. Yeah.
Add it to the list of the, like, if you weren't Aly Raisman, you would have gotten so injured right now.
Yeah.
I feel like that happened a lot, but it's like, I'm Aly Raisman, I'm fine.
Yeah.
My legs are sturdy, and I'm not going to get injured. Also, sub-answer, Jordan Weber's hilarious split full on floor. That routine is so good, and the tumbling is so good, and her twisting is so good. It's one of her best floors ever. But there is a point where she almost Simone trips on a leap that I didn't remember, where she's like going into a split full, and she's like, I'll get it around somehow. You didn't see that. Don't worry about it. Never mind. Did not remember that.
I feel like part of it is like in our minds, if you listen to the NBC broadcast, which I think Olympics.com also has all of the routines up, so you can watch everything. It's like the narrative is so, I mean, this is what NBC does so well. They plant the narrative in your mind. And so it was just all they have to do is land on their feet and they win. And it wasn't like, well, that's a little deduction. That's a little deduction. They're chipping away at their 2-point lead. Yeah. And so we're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to erase it from my brain because all they have to do is stay on. And, and then, of course, Russia imploded.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Russia, another thing that I've completely just decided was fact is that, like, Tatiana Nabieva wasn't on this team. And I was like, no, that can't be right. You couldn't possibly have an Olympic team without Tatiana Nabieva. She's on this team 4 times, and she won 8 gold medals at the Olympics, obviously. This is all I wanted in the world.
Exactly.
That's why they got silver. They picked
it is. Nabieva. You should have put
gold. Gold plus. Gold times 10.
Who's someone that you didn't appreciate enough at the time and you regret it?
Oh, Ksenia Afanasieva.
Yeah.
I feel like I enjoyed her, and now I'm like, she is my star. She is my all-time star of this team. Her presence, her expression is so good, and I felt like we spent too much time on Mustafina and Komova and being like, all-around titles and who's going to win, and like, Afanasieva, 2008 Olympics, 2012 Olympics, it's so good, and she was the best one on beam, which, she made big beam finals in her career. It was not always the most sturdy, but in this competition, she was the one who held it together on beam the most. And yeah, I just really, really loved watching her routines on beam and floor in this team final. It was my favorite part of rewatching this team final, even though she fell on that double pike on floor at the end.
But who cares?
And that was already done by that. That was the die was cast.
Exactly.
At that point.
It was over. She was just putting a nail in the coffin.
She understands that all sport is theater. A lot of people in this competition did. There are a lot of people in this on many teams who understood that gymnastics is theater, and that Afanasieva was one of them. Also, sub-answer Jordan Weber's twisting form is very, very good. And I feel like I did not give that enough credit at the time.
Yep. It is really good.
It's really good.
Yeah. And it is very hard to do the level of twisting she was doing and with that kind of form. What about Romania?
I feel like we took Diana Bulimar for granted and did not, because similar to Russia, it was kind of like with Romania, especially once we get to 2016 and they don't qualify a team. And then it was like, is it going to be Yordaka or Ponor? It was about them. And Diana Bulimar was just like thrown to the curb.
Yeah,
But her double lay on floor, her ability to do a reasonable bars routine was deeply important.
The no grips time, they were still using those like cotton grips.
She invented a skill on floor, switch side full.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's another thing. Didn't appreciate it enough at the time, and then like 5 years later, you would have killed for Deanna Bullimar.
Yes,
to have
especially her beam. I was like, oh, it's the floor, it's the beam, doesn't matter. Also, if you want to pull a groin muscle, switch side full. That is the way to do it. If you're wondering how, if there's something you need to get out of, that's how you do it. What happened to you? Can't attend? I was trying a switch side full. For me, it was, I didn't appreciate enough at the time, considering where we are now, the judges almost giving a perfect score to Maroney. Mm-hmm. That was, they only took 2.7 off.
0.27.
0.27.
What if they took 2.7?
Now they would take 2.7.
Yeah.
0.27 off. And that's such a small, reasonable amount. And we'll get into specifics, but I'm like, that's very reasonable. Also, actually connecting front to back skills, legitimately connecting them. Like Panor she had many of these, but like her Anodi was always so amazing and weird because her back was so flexible that it never looked like anybody else's Anodi because she did such arch in it. But that Anodi to back handspring layout 2 foot, so good, so on, so aggressive, and no pause, absolutely no pause. She totally connects it. Also, Kyla had that too. Kyla Ross, the only Kyla. She had like some switches to back tuck, like things that are moving forward and then going backwards, and there's absolutely no pause, and they're moving the whole time, and it's not like slow down, oh my god, this is so scary, let me swing my arms and then go. I mean, aggressive connections. The other thing I really didn't appreciate enough at the time was NBC pointing out how children could not see their parents during a time of crisis at these Olympics. That is the one shout out that I will give to the NBC team it's one thing if you're an adult, there's a phone, but these are minors. And I appreciated that they pointed out how, this was really hard for Rita Weber and Jordan Weber and Rita's dad, I'm sure, who also exists, by the way.
Rita's dad? I mean, I'm sure.
Jordan's dad, both her parents and her brother, and like not being able to actually see her and hug her and comfort her. And I just appreciate that they were like, it's weird that we put children in a place where their adults can't access them during an Olympics. Maybe we should rethink that. So I did appreciate that they pointed that out, even though, there's so many things that NBC said that it was creepy, but I love their gentle jabs at the Pirelli system.
Okay, that note, you kind of covered it, but my next question was, what is something in or about this competition that was here in this meet that you miss now, that you wish still existed? I guess I'll go first, because I'm asking this question to me because I have very strong feelings about it. Particularly, there are some skills that we saw here. I'm like, a Jaeger half, an Amanar, the Pattersons on beam. But it was watching Komova's beam in particular, I had a rush of, if she were competing now, her beam would be nothing. Her beam composition would be nothing like it was in 2012. And I think she would actually thrive in the current code, but her beam would be very different. Like I was watching her, and she does a front aerial walkover, as one does on beam, and then my 2025 beam head was like, okay, and then she's going to do a split jump back handspring step out for series bonus, and then she does front aerial to back tuck sheep jump, and I'm like, oh, that's better. That one's better. That's more interesting. That one's better. And maybe they shouldn't be the same bonus in the current code. And then like Komova doing a Patterson, like she would never do a Patterson now. I feel like she'd do a back 2.5. It would be great, but it wouldn't be the same. Maybe advisable given how the Patterson went in this team final in particular. But yeah, I think she would load up on like aerial series bonus, maybe like a split ring jump series bonus, and her beam would be totally different. And I like the interesting, riskier beam that we're seeing from her in 2012 versus my fantasy imaginary Komova 2025.
Yeah, I really liked how Beam was, what people were doing with Beam in this era. Bars has been fine for a long time. I don't have a problem with bars for many, many years. But Beam, the combinations were great and I really enjoyed them. And how many different, forward and backwards and connecting. And it wasn't just the same thing over and over. But the thing that I missed the most is Mustafina.
Yes, correct. I mean, correct answer.
Just everything she did was glorious. And I loved her like extremely dramatic makeup too. And also her dismount on bars. Like the Mustafina dismount, the full and half out. It's such a cool dismount. It says like, oh, it's going to be a full. And then she's like, whoop, just kidding. I did a half turn at the end. I'm amazing. It's a front dismount, front landing. It's so good. It's so clean. Her form was so excellent. The other thing that I really miss is big ass 16s. 16s.
Okay.
It's just
the number 16 is very satisfying to you.
It's a satisfying number.
Okay.
It's just like, ooh, a 15-9, a 15-8, and then a 16. I mean, it was like an achievable score. And it happened. And it's just so juicy, a 16. Yeah. Anything else for you?
Just in that vein, if you're gonna have composition requirements, I miss the dismount composition requirement. 5/10 for a D, 3/10 for a C. I like that better than what we have now, which is just a 2/10 bonus for a dismount over D. I liked the composition requirement if you're gonna do those, and having connection bonus for dismounts, not just series bonus on beam. I think that encouraged more like dismounts of E or greater on beam.
What's something about this competition that you don't miss now?
Okay.
God, it's buried and gone.
The Amanar being 7/10 more in difficulty than your Yurchenko double full, that was a dark time. Those were dark days. That was bad because Aly Mustafina's vault scoring lower than Maria Paseka's Apocalypse on vault is bad. That's not good. That's not how gymnastics should be. That's very, very bad, very, very bad times. It should never. That's a very, very good vault from Mustafina and basically a fall from Paseka, and that should never score higher. So that was very bad. I don't miss that. The different 4/10 is a much better difference in difficulty score. I think that allows for a really good double full to outscore a missed 2.5 better.
True. Yeah.
Just walking backward on the beam to do your next big skill. Shout out
Are you talking about China?
Shout out to Sweet Lou, whose beam I love, and there's so many amazing skills in it, but it'll be like, I'm going to do a big skill, and then just walk backwards, and then do another one, and then just walk backwards and do another one. So I do think they have done a good job in evolving the beam code to be like, don't do that, because that's not beam, that's just tumbling on a line, and that's not the same thing as beam.
Yes.
Also, the team's going 3 at a time, and then the next team goes, and now they alternate routines in the team final. I like the alternating of routines better.
Alternating is better. Yep, it is way, way better. The things that I don't miss, Spencer, the Russian bend both of your knees tap before your dismount. Just a full, almost a sheep jump hanging from the bar, bent knee tap. I mean, Mustafina can almost be forgiven because her dismount was so good, but like, come on with the legs. Al Troutwig, don't miss Al Troutwig.
Oh, really? You don't?
Don't miss him. Nope, sure don't. Al Troutwig and the made-up narratives. That's the other thing I don't miss. Like, Jordan Weber saying, my job is to win a medal. Like, did they tell Jordan to say that? Did she come up with that herself? It was like they gave them lines to say.
They absolutely gave them lines to say. They were writing their own scripts.
Right. My job is to bring home a medal. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, they don't do stuff like that. And it's like, makes me so grateful for the team that has changed NBC, who still hold the rights here in the United States. So that's why we talk about them so much. They've changed how it works now. And also, I appreciate how NBC has evolved the way that they cover gymnastics specifically. So that's one of the things that
you can tell they were lines they were given because they all really struggle with it except Maroney. And I'm like, oh, there's one of you who can act.
Yes, one of you is born to
one
be
of you is a performer, and
yes.
it's McKayla Maroney.
Where does the pink podium from London rank for you aesthetically?
Whoa, it's a big question. It's a huge question. It's not high. What I appreciate is that it is distinctive. I think that's the Olympic podiums need to be like, you can take a screenshot from any routine at this Olympics and you can identify which Olympics it is just based on that. So I appreciate that. Correct. I prefer a Beijing and Rio aesthetically. I rank them both ahead of London. What I appreciate is that I can tell what color it is.
Clear for Spencer is colorblind. So for him saying this, so you want the green, Rio green?
I like it. I like the Rio.
Over the Georgia green? I do like the Rio green over the Georgia green. Atlanta Olympics. It looked like a golf course, like an old.
They weren't doing
it
yet in Atlanta. I feel like they weren't. It wasn't as big of a thing. So yeah, but I like that I can say like, oh, Beijing's red. I know, I can identify that. I know what the color is. Aren't you impressed, gentlemen? I can identify 6 colors. So I like that, but it's not super high. It's bad, but I feel like the last two, is it just my color blindness? But the last two Olympics are like kind of similar.
So yeah, Paris wasn't a very distinctive. In the arena, it really was. It really
it was the kind of thing that didn't pop on
translate,
TV as much as in person.
I think the London podium is the most iconic podium ever. That pink color is like
it's memorable. I won't disagree that it's memorable.
It's so bold. It's so like, we are not doing it like everybody else. We are making an artistic statement, and they're very good at TV there. So
because we like to make decisions for people, LA 2028 podium. What's the color? What does it need to look like? What's the color scheme? So then when we use this episode as like a replay later, people can be like, oh, they were really wrong because the LA 2028 already happened and it was that.
I like that me and Coop just said at the same time, purple. He wrote it and I said it at the same time. Purple, it's the only one that hasn't been used. And it's like, we've had red, we've had yellow, all those puke yellow days. We've had like a rainbow colored one. Like we've had 2 greens. We've had the light blue. I feel like purple would be great. Oh, also apparently there's some local team that's purple, but we don't want to do anything with local teams. We want to just be iconic and have purple or lavender.
So I'm going to say, the LA 2028 color scheme, they've done just like our color scheme is all the colors, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone does now. Like it used to be like, these are our color schemes for this team, and now it's just like our color scheme is all the colors. But they're using a lot of like sunset stuff. So if I were giving a brief to the person, like some direction to the designer, I would go with like the yellow orange geometric sunset. I think would be a distinctive, and it's a less ugly color than purple, the ugliest color of them all.
Oh my God.
I really don't like purple.
From a colorblind gentleman.
I think you also don't understand what colorblindness is, but that's okay.
Well, I know that you can see colors. You just have a different range of colors that you can see. That's colorblindness. Doesn't mean everything's black and white. You're not a cat or a dog or whichever animal sees in black and white. Yeah.
I can see colors, so I know that purple is the worst one, and that's just science facts.
I love that I immediately made gymnastics main color purple, and you never said that you hated it. Thank you so much for holding that in. Yeah,
I can live with that.
Oh,
if it's important to you, I can live with it.
Thank you. This is why we work so well together. God, I just feel like orangey yellow. But it's probably going to be something like a wave and a sunset, which is like boring. But anyway,
that's boring. I think that would be good.
A sunset that's like all the colors.
Well, they have kind of taken all the like rainbow is kind of what they're doing. So like, I'm okay with a rainbow.
I would
But,
love
like,
a double down
commit.
on a rainbow. Yes.
Commit to a full rainbow. It would be gaudy and it would be memorable.
Before we go event by event, because we have so much more to say, some updates for you about Gymnastic and what's happening here. So we're gearing up to go to Jakarta and to cover World Championships. And part of that is we asked you guys what you would think of the Club Gym Nerd price going up by $1. And we got an overwhelming response that yes, you guys would be okay with that. So starting in September, we're going to increase the club prices by $1. And we haven't increased anything since the pandemic. All of our costs have gone up. And so we did have someone who wrote the nicest letter that it literally made me and Coop cry. Coop, like not like me, but like his eyes welled, which was lovely. And they offered a kind of a scholarship that they would give like they would donate a certain number of Club Gym Nerd memberships. So we're going to have to come up with an amazing contest to give those away. So look for that coming up. In the meantime, we have a new game called Headstand, and you can play it on your phone, you can play it on the on your computer, and it is one of those games where you see a word and you try to get the other person to guess it. And there is also a really cool feature in here where you can set it to take a picture of the person who's trying to guess and yelling things at you. And we have had many hilarious photos taken in this household. So you can navigate to Games Headstand, and it's live now exclusively for Club Gym Nerd members. So we want to thank you guys so much for your support. And so we're trying to always give you more for your membership. Live show, you guys can still buy tickets to our live show a couple weeks ago with world champion Morgan Hurd, one of only 3 non-Simones to win the world championship in the last 15 years or however long. The Shenikovers were there with her. Her coach was there. Corey did our intros and games. It was so much fun, and she had so many stories and answers to all the questions you want to know she talks about. So you can still get tickets to that, gymcasting.com. And then we also remember for Club Gym Nerd members, we also try to give you extended interviews. So if you love the gymnastics loving drag queen, Katya Zamalachikova of RuPaul's Drag Race fame, you have bonus content in your club feed on her. And if you're watching this on the YouTubes, please subscribe, because only like 50% of you are subscribers. And we have lots of stuff coming up from Worlds. Deanna Hong is coming with us to Worlds again. We're going to have tons of videos from Worlds, and you don't want to miss it. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, set your favorite podcast player to automatically download so you don't get stuck on a plane or somewhere without internet without all of your Gymnastic episodes downloaded. Okay, let us begin with Rotation 1, the United States of Amanar.
Yes. I think that's the defining factor of Rotation 1 in the 2012 team final. The US and Russia started on vault. China and Romania were on bars. The US pulls ahead with a big margin after the first rotation, which was expected, with the United States of Amanar. The question from Jasmine, did the USA have the best vault rotation ever? Jessica, go.
Yes.
End of analysis.
I would say, to that point, yes.
Oh, you think there's been one since that's better?
Yeah, I think anything that has, like, anytime Simone, if you don't have a Maroney, you have a Simone. And so...
Yeah, but with Simone...
Single-handedly.
Just... at the level that Weber and Douglas did in this team final? Because I kind of don't think so.
I feel like having Simone boosts everyone to...
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Maroney doing, like, maybe the best Amanar ever.
That's what I mean.
Like,
okay, because you're thinking, because I was thinking about to that point. So, I feel like, Mary Lou Retton did a really good vault to help win 84. She got a 10. But in terms of, like, everybody killing it and practically sticking, this was and having really good form. I would still rank this as the best ever, but Simone is another level. Simone and Maroney.
Simone is not a rotation. She is just one person.
Simone and Maroney, I rank them as they are like. Maroney, we know that she did double backs and the same kind of stuff that Simone ended up competing, but Yeah, I'd put her in the category.
Yeah. I feel like definitely in the open-ended code of points era, this is the best vault rotation ever. The combination of difficulty and execution. I feel like the only thing you could argue for is the era of great Yurchenko fulls like Miller and Zemeskal putting up those great Yurchenko fulls. I think that's the competitor in this. Maybe like, unified team also 92 era vaulting, but it's not, a comparison you can even really have because the difficulty is so different.
Yeah. The flared.
Yeah. I mean, those are
fulls.
Those
oh my God.
Era has some great vault rotations, but it's not comparable because Yurchenko full versus Yurchenko 2.5, I think are not comparable in trying to adequately compare what your execution is and what counts as amazing.
Yeah.
Is Maroney's Amanar the best ever in this team final? Is that the best Amanar we've ever seen? Because this is the discussion.
To date?
Is Simone better? Is Simone's better?
Simone crosses her toes. Here's the thing. I feel like Maroney's is actually higher than Simone's. It pops so high. And Simone's is Simone goes way further, but Maroney just goes straight up. The thing about Maroney's is like she actually, there are little things about her form that are very hard to see in real time. And then, we have Andrade too, which, I'm like, that is also incredibly beautiful. I would say, is it the best ever competed in an Olympic final? Period. End of story. Yes. Done.
But that wasn't really my question. Because you're avoiding my question. I feel like I don't think there's really a right answer. Like it's a fun internet argument that you could go around and around and around. And I think, Maroney has a little bit of a crossed feet. Simone has more. I would say Maroney's twisting form is a little crisper, but Maroney has a leg separation on her pre-flight that Simone doesn't have. So you can go back and forth with that. In general, I think that this one of Maroney's is the best one ever, but who has the better on our overall? I would say Simone, because I think her her fundamentals are stronger, which allowed her to recreate excellent vaults with excellent landings more often. So I think Simone's is sounder, but this one vault is the strongest one.
Yeah.
Is kind of my answer.
And it's like, I know that there's all these slow motion and 3D circle, and they compare her to Kohei, and there's, NBC did that thing. It was so cool. But it's still Maroney's vaults in person. Like Simone, you will gasp. Maroney, you will lose your fucking mind if you ever saw her vault in person. I can only describe it as it's like an actual launch. Like a launch, like something actually being exploded from a rocket, except it's her hands leaving the vault. It's so huge. And that is part of I feel like she had this amazing control, but maybe a little bit less control because of Simone's technique is so perfect. And speaking of that, there's something that I want to look at, and which is the takeoff of Maroney on the board. And I never noticed this before.
Okay.
But, the trick to a Amanar is you start twisting before you hit the vault. You get a quarter twist in before you actually touch the vault. And,
or a trick to Yurchenko 1.5 if you're less of an Olympic level and maybe a level 10 or NCAA.
Yes. And so the thing is, if we look at this screenshot of her takeoff, did you ever notice that she never fully pushes off her left leg?
Oh, interesting. No, I don't think I ever noticed that before.
Her heel never touches. And I don't know if this is just this one time, but I think it's the perfect one. So she does it like this all the time. But I was like, oh my God, this is Maroney not even using her full kinetic chain power because her left leg doesn't even push through the heel when she's taking off. So on the board, one leg you can see is extended down to push, and the other one never. It's always on a little bit of releve. It's not releve, but you know what I mean. Her heel doesn't touch. And I watched it over and over, and I was like, oh my God. So, she could probably do a quadruple if she actually used everything.
But maybe was her trick.
Yeah.
Maybe if she did it using all her power, it wouldn't have been as good.
This is true because controlling power is a real thing for these incredible mega superhumans. So Jasmine asked, yeah.
Yeah, but on the topic of this, I would also say, does the fact that they also had another good Amanar on the bench from Aly Raisman that they didn't even use also give an argument to this lineup, like the qualification lineup?
Yeah.
I think that also is like, oh, you had a vault that any other US team would have used at any other time that you didn't even use in the team final.
Yeah.
And Kyla allegedly had an Amanar, but it would just let Kyla do her wonderful your Chico double. Don't try to do an Amanar. Okay, so Jasmine asks what your E score is for McKayla's vault.
So leg separation on pre-flight, very slight, but there is, her legs it's not a Paseka full straddle split, come back together, but it is they're not perfectly squeezed together on pre-flight. Which, if you want to have any backbones connected anymore, of course, you're going to separate your legs a little bit. So crossed feet a little bit. She does have closed. Her hips are not perfectly extended. They're not perfectly extended. It's not a perfect line. There is probably a 5 or 10%, 10 degree angle on her hips. Watch it again. I didn't make my diagrams this time, Spencer. Don't make me make my diagrams for you.
Okay.
Could I see those in real time? No, but when I watch it in slow motion, I could. Also, her knees are not completely, totally extended. So can her legs be straighter? Yes, they could. And then her stick, it's not a balanced stick. She's actually holding that position on her toes, which is so impressive. And then also, I feel like a tailored person for even pointing these things out because, again, I think it is in the Mount Rushmore of Amanars. It should be in the center. It should be like Maroney, Andrade, Simone, Maroney in the middle.
Okay.
And then those.
So to the question, you're giving this a 9.5? You're taking a 10th for everything you said?
Yeah. I would rather only take
Tim Daggett would destroy. He would be so disappointed in you right now, Jessica. 9.5.
What's the least I can take for? Can I take a half a 10th for each of those?
No.
I know it's a least, so I take a 10th. Yeah, so it's a 10th.
For reference, the judges, the 5 execution judges went 9.7, 9.7, 9.8, 9.7, 9.8. The reference judges went 9.6 and 9.9, which I think is very interesting that the 2 reference judges one was below every other judge, one was above every other judge. I think that's very interesting. I feel like leg separation pre-flight and then it's maybe didn't hold the stick. It's kind of a college salute. She salutes, but then she kind of steps into it, which is why I 9.733 is the execution she got, which is some of the judges took 3/10 and some of the judges took 2/10, and I actually think that's right on.
Yeah.
I have no issue with what they gave. I think that's about right.
It is. I understand the argument that is at the time they're this is the best that vault can be done.
Yeah.
And I also feel like it is.
Write a different code of points if you want that, because that's not what the code of points says.
And these judges follow the rules.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They follow the rules, and that's what we want from the judges, right? Even though Aly was like, this should be a 9. This should be a 16.5. 16.5. Also, one of the things I want to go back to, things we didn't appreciate. I did not appreciate at the time Aly's leadership.
Oh, then you didn't watch NBC because they couldn't shut up about Aly's leadership. But yes, I agree.
Because I watched once just to be annoyed with NBC, and then I watched a second one to just try to listen to the gymnasts and try to find clips where I could hear the gymnasts better.
Yeah.
And Aly is constantly good job, and talking to everyone and going up to everyone and being, and I know there was a coach that had a blog that talked a lot about that since the first time Aly was on a senior national team. And it was this time when I was really trying to listen to it, I really heard her being in that role. And it's so hard because they talk so much. You can't hear the gymnasts. And now I feel like we get way more mic'd up gymnasts. Also because, Simone always has something to say.
Simone's a walking quote factory.
Yes. And I'm just like, yes, everything. We want to hear everything. But I just really didn't appreciate it at the time. And I so appreciate it now. What
other question from Jasmine was compare McKayla and Aaliyah's vault E scores. So this is McKayla Maroney got 9.733. Mustafina got 9.433 for her Yurchenko double fall.
So 9 for 9. I mean, Mustafina's did not have the dynamics that McKayla's did, and her landing was good.
Yeah, her landing is excellent.
Yeah,
but she has the Mustafina twisty legs.
Yeah. It's mostly her legs and also the dynamics. I mean, if you're comparing those vaults, like the internal dynamics are a real thing, which is another thing. Going back and watching Panora, I was like, oh my God, she'd get killed now. Like everything is so, her whole trunk is just like a wiggle farm. Which benefited her. Farm? It's so flexible.
Is that a thing?
You don't know that?
Do you have farms where you just have wiggles everywhere?
Yes. But yeah, I just watching it. I was like, oh, she's her carriage and how she's holding herself and her skills it's like her back is so flexible that it's just not there. And I think she'd get hammered for that now, even though she's amazing on beam and can do everything. Yeah. So yeah, not as bad as a car dealership waving noodles. But there is, those noodles. Yeah, but it is something I think should get deducted for more now. But I mean, I don't have a problem with it because when you're looking at what are the leg deductions and the height and the distance, Mustafina's is very good and very good should be a 9.5. And that's.
I am fine with their E scores. I have a much bigger problem with Paseka almost dying and getting an 8.8 E score. I being as nice as I possibly could. I cannot get that as high as 8.8 E score. I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem always with Paseka scores. So we were how can you do a basically try to how to describe Paseka's vaults? You are trying to do an artistic interpretation of a helicopter crash. That's your Amanar. And somehow she didn't tear all the ligaments all the time. And then fall off the side of the mat and still get in the 8s? That would be a 5.
High 8s.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be a 5 now, but yeah.
It would have been in 2017 when all the scores were perfect, but yeah. No, not on vault.
I don't get that, and that's my main vault where I'm I don't understand how this score happened.
It's they ignored all pre-flight and everything that happened after she landed.
And everything. Yeah, they ignored the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoa. Wild.
Who's the real star of E-scores?
Who's the real star of E-scores? Rita Weber's rings. That is who. Oh my God. Talk about things you didn't appreciate enough at the time. Rita Weber. She had 68 rings and bangles and charms and was doing all kinds of mystic rituals, the incantations. Oh, yeah. I mean, she was dressed like Stevie Nicks at this, and it was great. It was perfect. That's my 10. That's my 10 E-score. Rita Weber and Aly Raisman are my team for the apocalypse. That is what I'm
saying. Yes. Oh.
We will get all of the goods. We will have canned goods. We will have water. We will have toilet paper. We are set. We are ready.
Yep. Lynn would plan everything and have organize it all and think of the things, and Rita would assemble an army to get it done and be leading the charge. Like, okay, this reminds me of what you were talking about. This reminds me of when we were at Olympic trials and Rita got good luck shots for like everyone in the bar before Olympic trials. And she constantly, because everyone would be like, no, your daughter's already on the team. And she was like, no, don't say that. Don't take anything for granted. Like, we don't take things for granted. And then she told us the whole story of like her crazy, she's like, Rita Weber is just like a total athlete. Like, this is one of the people you see their parents and you're like, oh, you have muscles on muscles. And she's a runner and she was jogging. She got hit by a car and she was in this horrible accident. And you would never know this. She's like perfectly healthy by the time this meet came around. But she like was like, we never take things for granted. Like, I'm so lucky to be here and we can't. And I was just like, when you talk about all the charms and all of that stuff, I was just like, yes. And she's bringing in all the like Lebanese ancestors into this. And she was like, this is one of the other things she talked about so much is her Lebanese heritage at that Olympic trials. And like, she's so proud of it. And so like, we are going to just be grateful. And then hopefully this will happen. We can't take it for granted. So bangles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
She nailed it.
I love bangles.
She understood.
Love them.
All right. I feel like we did too much like complaining about NBC, but I have more. So even though I feel like we've done too much of it, oh my God. Just like the storyline being Jordan Weber's tears and no one else and nothing else. Like, was she crying before? Is she crying now? Who's crying now? Did she cry then? Who's crying when?
And the other thing about that, hold on, is that when Jordan's crying, it's totally understandable. When Russia's crying, it's because they're a mess.
Mm-hmm.
That was the part that totally pissed me off. It's like, and this is what we always talked about with like Troutwig and that era of like they're still like stuck in the Cold War of like us and them, and not that we're not in the middle of our own version of that right now, but the people are not their government. This is most of the time, hopefully. Sometimes they are, but there was that just narrative that all things Russian were evil. Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to the narrative, particularly of like the Russian team are divas with perfect form. And it was like, didn't apply really at all. And you could see it. It was just kind of the easy thing that they've always done. So they were like, yes, Mustafina is a diva. And you're like, is she?
She really doesn't seem like that at all.
Yeah, that's kind of like the downfall of the trio, I feel like, is the rise of social media and people having their own impressions of what athletes, especially those who aren't from their own country, are like before they were told what the narrative is. And then it doesn't necessarily mesh, and then you're like, oh, maybe we're being fed information that fits a storyline. Also, at one point, Troutwig says, this is a sport that demands more difficulty, and sometimes you wonder why they don't reward it. Wait, what? Look, this is 2012. Like, that's all this was D-score.
How do you think they got those big ass 16s on vault?
This Olympics is D-score. That's what the whole year was. That just made no sense. And then there's a point where Elfie is talking about the downfall of China and just then ends it with just not in shape, basically. And I'm like, that's not really the issue. It's always going back to like something that isn't a strength is like a moral or work ethic failing, rather than just like, they don't have super big tumbling on floor, but it's not like, they're not good enough intrinsically.
Other people are lazy and Americans are good, hard workers.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about people not being their governments, I mean, like going back to, I just want to clarify this. I'm just talking about in the Cold War, it was like, oh, we're going to be nuked by Russia. That's what's going to happen. And I just mean like, I feel like this trio still had this in their head. And I'm like, Mustafina doesn't have her finger on the button. She is just trying to do her gymnastics. Can we let her live? And also the thing that killed me about this is like, they're constantly talking about the athletes, the Russian athletes, like crying and standing up to what I interpret it as is like having emotions and standing up under stress to their coaches and like having agency. And they interpreted this as if you talk back to your coaches, then you're a diva and you're trouble and you're not disciplined and you're not hardworking and that's why you can't win. And I'm like, yeah, Russia is great here. Mustafin has tons of medals. And also you're also pointing out how it was bad that parents aren't allowed to see their kids during this competition. Like Rita wasn't allowed to see Jordan. So you're critiquing the US system, but then at the same time, you're saying another system where athletes do have agency and can express their stress is horrible and bad. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe if we all got our emotions out more, then it's, the crying when it's good and bad and okay and not is so disturbing to watch, because you see when they would critique the men, it's like, oh, men like yell or shout or they're upset or whatever, and it's like, yep, he's upset. Da, da, da. It's not a critique. He's so emotional. My God, he's gonna cry. Look at him talking to his coach. And none of that is critiqued the same way that it is for the women, especially the Russian women. And yeah, not in shape. China, get out of here.
On the topic of other countries do exist besides the US and Russia in this final, you, in particular, Jessica, wanted to talk about Hokushin's bars.
I do. This is one of the things, speaking of NBC, that made me so mad. So before we talk about Hokushin's bars, which are absolutely beautiful and outstanding and a work of art and should be worshipped, there should be a literal altar to her bar routine. Oh, this is another thing that I need to create somehow. Who wouldn't, like, you know how you go to restaurants and there's an altar? What if we had a gymnastics bar and there were
you
little
go to restaurants and there's an altar?
Yes. So you go to like Thai food, there's an altar. Indian food, sometimes there is. Or so what kind of restaurants you don't go out enough, Spencer?
Yeah,
if you're in a restaurant with an altar, not a Catholic, you don't have to like kneel down in front of it.
That is what I was picturing.
The Catholic restaurants. But like, okay, so in this time, NBC still uses this system, but they had this color coding system for scores. If they were good, bad, or ugly, they were green, yellow, or red. And it was a ratio of difficulty to deduction. It wasn't just the score, it was how hard did you try and how much deduction did you get at the time. So the problem with using this ratio is that, say you did an Amanar and you got a point off, it's just because Amanar's worth so much, it doesn't mean you did a good vault. It's the score that matters in the end, not the ratio of deduction. So with that in mind, Hokushin, obviously Olympic champion, Beijing, on bars, famously beat Nasty in a tie, controversially, not to me, but Hokushin's beautiful bars. I loved her Jaeger half, like Jaeger catching in mixed grip, doing it immediately into another Jaeger between the bars. It was so glorious. So she got a 15.766. So I have color coded, if you're a visual listener, I have color coded the results sheet for you. So you can see who won bars as a team. Gold, if there were gold medals for events for teams, which there should be, China won bars at this competition. The US was third on bars, and Hokushin got the second highest bar score in the meet. So with that in mind, what color do you think a 15.766 in 2012 should get?
I'm guessing it didn't get green based on your tone, and it's almost like these colors are nothing.
They gave it a yellow. They gave it a trash
almost
yellow.
Like this is not actually part of the code.
Yes. It's
But
absurd.
they're like, Americans are so stupid, they can't do numbers, so we have to turn them into colors.
Right. So it's a gigantic score. I think only Gabby was, I think Gabby was third on bars in this.
Well, Komova got a big bar score.
Yeah. Hokushin and Komova tied for the second highest score in this entire competition, this team final. Beth Tweddle, of course, of GB, who they didn't even show on the NBC feed, got a 15.833. But like, these are they gave her a yellow, and she is tied for the second highest score in the whole freaking meet. That makes no sense. The freaking colors, no sense. And also, it's a crime. Hokushin is a goddess. But I was so offended by this. So deeply, deeply offended.
So I want to talk about, in the other countries exist category, we got to see Victoria Moore's floor on the world feed.
Yeah.
Which I want to say, even though Brooklyn Moore's floor, I feel like give it up for Victoria as well, because she can perform. And it's not just like, I think sometimes it gets like, oh, Brooklyn performer, Victoria Moore's the Moors, double straight, which she got named after herself in 2013. Victoria's floor performance is also excellent. And the identifier of style is that she can do something that's technically not how you're supposed to do it, like her double attitude turn with a bent support leg, but it looks so good. It's so stylish and excellent, and I'm like, oh, good. I love it. That was a highlight for me of the whole meet.
By the way, third place team on floor, big part of it because of Victoria Morris, because she got the highest score in the team, 14-6, was Canada, because other teams exist as well.
And other teams exist in this rotation, like Romania on bars, end of analysis. That also is a rotation that occurred.
With their cotton grips. Okay, rotation 2.
Yeah, if the rotation 1 was the United States of Amanar, rotation 2 is the Russian Federation of Inbar, because the US and Russia go to bars, China, Romania go to beam. The story of rotation 2 was Russia pulling it back. These routines are so good from Russia on bars, and it's interesting watching them now because they look so much more modern than the US routines to a 2025 eye. You're like, oh, this is the direction everything went, and not like toe shoot to high US bar routines more so. Komova, I think she did her best ever double tuck dismount in this final. It was really, really strong. It was funny listening to Daggett's sheer at the concept of connecting a pack to a Shaposh half, because that's basically compulsory now, but it was like, look at this combination. It's so hard. But it is kind of weird to see people in 2012 do like Tkachevs with no intention to connect out of them, or like a pack and then a kip cast handstand on low bar after the pack. I'm like, you're not? Some people aren't doing a Shaposh half after this? It's possible? That's allowed? There are cast handstands? Why could you possibly put a cast handstand into a bars routine?
And Russia was second on vault and second on bars. And they had 2, 15-7s, like we talked about. They did amazing. It's no wonder, because their bars were, living in the future and absolutely beautiful and perfect. And I think the only other person we saw
except the Russian taps that you talked about.
Except for the do a sheep jump as a tap. Besides that. Yeah, and this is another point where I feel like it should have been, they're bringing it back. There's a possibility they could win at this point. Like, they could still, the meet is not over. But if you're watching the separation in how far they were apart from the US at this point, it was like no one could ever make up that amount at the time. And the narrative of NBC was it's already over. The meet is won. It's done. Because it's all fun and games until Russia goes to beam. But that's the next rotation. Favorite NBC moments from this?
God, no, this is what asks about Mustafa now. He goes, have you seen any diva moments yet? Like, come on, you guys.
And also them talking about the trainings the whole time. Like, I think there are important things to talk about in trainings, but like interpreting the way that what they did at the time is like they assigned an emotion and a story to everything that the athletes did. And it was, you couldn't be like crying and being upset with your coach because you're injured and hurt and stressed, or something's going on in your personal life. It was, they're divas. Or maybe your coach is a total fucking asshole and you're telling them to shut up because, I mean, we have all seen, I don't know if any of the Russian coaches were at this, but we have all seen the documentary on how to be a Russian coach called Over the Limit. Which is about the rhythmic Olympic champion and her coach. But yeah, like there could be many things going on. And I think it's important to either just state what's happening in practice or put it in context when you talk to the athlete, or context in things that you know, but not just say, oh, they're being divas. You have no idea why that was happening in practice. Anything else from them?
Well, I would say from the world feed, to give it to the world feed too, we did have a lot of light being used as a compliment for good, to describe good gymnastics. As a synonym for good form is light. And I'm like, I don't love that. But I want to talk about the interesting things about watching the US on bars.
Okay, one more thing. I want to comment about the light thing. Because it's coming from the British.
This is from Shannon.
Oh, from Shannon. Okay. Like there there is a quality of lightness, like when you hear someone on beam and they are doing super hard skills, but they are like, you never hear a landing because they are absorbing the impact of their skills in a really efficient way. But I do think this is kind of a toxic word to use when describing gymnasts specifically. So, US, bars.
This is such, like, going back to this is the era of D. There is, like, so much, like, labored routine specifically designed to get a big D score where we're not, like, on what planet should these routines have happened? Like, on what planet? Well, first of all, should Weber have been doing a double layout full? I don't know why on bars, but her double lay was so good, and the double lay full was 1/10 more. Just interesting to watch labored routines with a lot of missed handstands, and that not being that big of a deal.
Yes.
But there are highlights like Gabby's, amplitude. Even though she flanks that pike position on that Tkachev.
She way put her legs over to the side.
She puts her legs over to the side, and we knew that at the time, and we talked about it. Everyone talked about it at the time, but it's so high.
Yeah. I miss gigantically high release skills. There aren't a lot of people that, like, there still exists, but there aren't a lot of people that are just like, I need all the airtime, and then I will decide when I catch the bar. They're much safer.
If
also,
you have that airtime, you're laying it out. Because if you have that airtime in your Tkachev, it's like, oh, you know what you could do? You could lay it out. So you do have that airtime, but it doesn't visually look like it the same because you have a straight body position. So your body is taking up so much of that room. Like if Kalia Namor were to do her Inbar, layout Tkachev, when you see her do it like piked, it's super high. So,
yep.
But yeah.
For the people that don't know what we're talking about with Gabby's bars, so she does it to Tkachev, so it's a backwards jump on your hands, backwards over the bar. And normally you do it straddled, because straddled, if you aren't close to the bar, you can just reach through your legs and grab the bar. But Gabby did it piked, which makes it harder. But she wasn't going, it was really high, but it seemed like she thought she wasn't going to clear the bar. So she pulled her legs sideways. So she didn't go directly over the bar with a pike. She pulled them to the side so she'd be sure to grab, which is a significant deduction. But back then, not. I mean, I remember thinking her bars were just like so exquisitely perfect. That's another thing. I was like, I just feel like in my memory, Gabby was absolutely perfect and everything. And I watched the bars and I was like, oh, her pack was a little bit off. That release was a little bit off. Like, it was not a perfect bar routine from her. Still beautiful form. But
my other thing about this is whenever someone says, but can you rely on a first-year senior to put her on a team? Kyla Ross, 2012 Olympics. Remember Kyla?
Yeah, I'm just like, thank God. Like, Kyla stayed and kept going because she just got better and better.
She got better and better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she was so consistent here. And that's the thing is, like, anybody that questioned the way that teams were selected, I was like, one of the things is like Marta Karolyi and the people, there's 3 people that picked the team. It wasn't just Marta, but they knew what they were doing with the team selection. I mean, I think you could have switched Evie out and Evie would have been Elizabeth Price and she would have been amazing on this team as well. I don't know I'm trying to think who you would have switched her out for, but
I feel like we've had that conversation.
I know we've totally had it, but I feel like, you could, and she would have been absolutely fine and amazing. But yeah. Okay. Other countries exist category rotation 2.
We had Romania on beam. Ponor's switch ring was hilarious. I loved it.
Explain why you thought it was
I don't know. It's hard to explain why. I just there were 2 moments I physically laughed out loud when watching this meet. One was Jordan Weber split full on floor, and the other was Ponor's switch ring. Just because it's so in 2 parts. It's so like I'm gonna split with my front leg, and then my front leg will basically be touching down on the beam by the time I hit a ring position. And it is very funny looking. I don't know why. I don't know how to describe it other than that. But she did and got an E score over 9 because it was a different time.
Wiggle farm. It's
a wiggle farm. That's good. Yeah.
That is. The middle is like not attached to the rest of her body. It's such a good beat.
Another China rotation. China on beam. Okay, I feel for Huang Chuxuang because she had to go on beam in an Olympic team final, and that's not fair because that was not her event for hitting. And it's just really vivid to me the effects of Yao Jinan being injured at this meet on China's chances and how that maybe more than anything else changed how this meet went down, because she did not go on beam, and obviously you would have had her on beam. Huang had to go on beam as well, and was like, she was not able to go on floor. They didn't really have the depth on floor because Hukashin was on this team as well. And so that just really, there's some great beam. And I've never seen Dung Lin Lin's routine from this phase of the competition, from the team final. She goes on to win the gold medal in the beam final, but I haven't seen her, but she missed, and that's uncharacteristic. But then they had other people in lineup. So it really is, I don't know. I feel like so much of China finishing fourth and the downfall of China, quote unquote, is down to one person being injured at the wrong time. Because a healthy Yao Jinan, this team easily bronze, maybe silver, given what happens to Russia in rotation 4.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's so many routines on the US feed they did not show that were driving me nuts, because I was like, there's 2 other teams that legit in this with Romania and China, and you have to show Beth Tweddle's bars. Because it's Beth Tweddle, and she's doing bars, even though, Great Britain did not, they were basically 4th and 6th on every event, 8th on beam. But it's, Beth Tweddle's doing bars. You should always show it. Eventually,
almost like you could have put Danusha Francis's beam routine on this team. I'm not bitter. I'm over it. I'm over it, you guys. Also, we did on the world feed get to see a new child named Elizabeth Black hitting a handspring Rudy on vault. That was very important to me. And also, a lot of Yurchenko double fulls as well. I think more than we have now, but also they weren't cute. They weren't that so great in the leg form. And I thought that was something that really stood out to me in seeing a lot of the vaults in this competition. A lot of the Yurchenko double fulls were like, I would prefer to see you do a full or a 1.5. Okay, can we rotation 3? Are you ready?
Rotation 3, ready.
It's all fun and games till you already named it. It's all fun and games until Russia goes to beam. So US and Russia on beam, China and Romania to floor. The US beam, super solid. I think this is the moment the meet ended. The gold medal was clinched, was after the US went through so securely on beam. What was interesting to me was to remember that the main storyline, and this is on both the NBC and the world feed, was, is Gabby Douglas going to hit? Like, does she have the poise and the experience to hit? But I understand it, because we're still in the 2011 Nationals. Gabby keeps balking on beam and can't do her dismount. Mm-hmm. And into 2012, I think we have this retrospective understanding that Gabby Douglas is the gamer of all gymnastics history, and she's going to do her best meets at the Olympics. And she is going to show up and hit in that moment. But we didn't know that yet. The all-around final of 2012 hadn't happened yet. So I get that. But it is interesting to hear, like, the one question mark we have on this team is, can Gabby Douglas hit at an Olympic Games? And it's like, oh, yes. The answer is yes. Yes, she can. It's going to be really good at the Olympics all the time. But also that, like, it was Aly. The idea that it was Aly that made Gabby hit her beam, I think, is a little condescending. The pep talk from Aly is what allowed Gabby to hit her beam routine, not her own abilities, but Aly talking to her.
It's so interesting. I just totally tuned out them talking about Aly. I think because, like, when they were talking about the leadership stuff, because I was just like, I want to hear what the gymnasts have to say. Can you guys stop talking?
Okay, I want to hear Aly actually talking to Gabby. Yeah. I will say, even though I agree with your point about the connections, some of the connections on beam and the front to back and the difficult connections, and I do like seeing that, there are also a lot of attempted connections that I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, the Jordan Weaver back full sandwich was a problem that did not go in this team final. But also, like, Aly Raisman trying to do a front pike tuck to layout step out was like, you're not connecting those. Those are just two skills. But I like the idea of it. I love the idea of it more than what actually takes place in a routine, which is I'm going to do one skill and then kind of try to keep my arms moving. And then there's going to be another skill at some point.
This is my question for you, because I still don't understand Aly's E-scores at this meet. I think that her E-scores were overwhelmingly too high. Floor is probably the one place, but beam especially. It's just so obvious, like the front puck. Like, it's not a tuck, it's not a pike, it's like her form really stood out. Her weaknesses in her form really stood out. And her difficulty was incredible. And she was very solid. But the E scores.
That is the example of why I'm always like, I hesitate to say she'll never get those scores at Worlds. She'll never get those scores at the Olympics after when we talk about the US competitions being overscored. Because I'm like, I said that about Aly all the time. I was like, no way. These split positions, she's never going to get those scores at the Olympics. And then she showed up to the Olympics multiple times and Worlds multiple times and exactly got those scores. So I'm like, I'll shut up now because she's going to get those scores. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's like watching Panor's beam here and Aly's. I am just like, Panor's beam was fantastic. It was so good. She connected everything. What did she get? A 15.4 on beam? Aly got a 14.9, which I still feel like is way too high for all the deductions you should take. So, but that, yeah, I mean, this is the thing.
But I feel like goes on to win a medal. And that switch ring, like she's not getting a 9 in execution now just from that switch ring.
Yeah, that's true.
She got over 9 in execution. Okay, Russia on beam. This is where it all kind of like falling apart pre-floor. In my head, it's like, oh yeah, and then floor was a disaster. And I'm like, oh, it kind of fell apart before that, with Mustafina having a near fall on her switch ring after a wobble on the Arabian. And then she had a break on her aerial to aerial and did the back handspring, back tuck. And it was like kind of it was pre-Alia can't do an acro series on beam era. I think we hadn't moved into that territory yet, but it was telling you what the future will hold. This was a predictive moment, I think. And then Komova having that huge wobble on a switch split, which is not a skill that she struggles with. And then that Patterson and the really close to the beam, short, huge lunge out of it. Nearly fell, did well not to fall, but
ended up off the mat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deduction.
It is hard to tell. Like, if her and Paseka both were like, these mats, not big enough for us.
I will go to the left. I will go to the left of these mats.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very bad
I feel like there's a good Beyonce reference in there with to the left that I couldn't come up with right now, but I feel like we probably did at the time. Anyway, the other thing I do want to say about Afanasyeva's beam is to the presence issue. She pauses for a solid 15 seconds before her dismount, and I didn't care because she was just armsing and posturing, and I was like, I could just watch you do. I know this is a deduction. I know this is not what you're supposed to do. I accept this. I could watch you do that for an entire 1 minute, 30-second beam routine. Just vamp on the end of the beam for an hour before your dismount, and I loved it.
I honestly, this is the thing about the way, because Russia has ballet, the way that they trick you into thinking that they're actually doing art by just having a beautiful ability to lift from the elbow and extend the correct ballet fingers. It is like genius, because honestly, but there was so much stopping and long pauses before dismounts. I mean, not that it doesn't still happen. You can tell who's freaked out by or really tired or scared before their dismount, because they're like, I'm just gonna really slowly go over here and then go. But like, they stopped on Aly's face for 200 hours before her dismount. This is another thing.
Like, we're missing skills. We're missing skills. And you're like, oh no, we're not.
We're not. She's maybe moving her arms, but you wouldn't know the difference. It is, yeah. Also, this is the thing, watching Kyla's beam, I remember Kyla, like thinking of Kyla so artistic on beam. And I watched her beam and I was like, oh, it's like not artistic at all. Like, her skills are very well done with very good form, but I'm like, oh, there's like not a lot of art in here in between.
I will say also, watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, Kyla was still really young. Because I think a lot of that developed later. Yeah. And even at like our UCLA memories of Kyla also then bleed into it, because I think she grew so much naturally as a performer and just all of her gymnastics became more refined. It's really pretty in London, and it also makes you think like, oh, and it got better. The problem is then she wasn't always able to do the difficulty it was like, oh, I wish we could meld the era where Kyla was able to do Inbars on bars with the era where she was like precise in her handstands and everything was perfect and crisp. And if you could have put all those both together, she's like maybe, I was going to say beating Simone. She's not beating Simone, but she's a solid second behind Simone at like 2014 Worlds.
Yep. And I remember like being in the gym when she was a freshman in college, and like her just like having that elite dead eyes, just like dun, 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 robot, like feedback, nothing, talking to her, nothing. And like to the time that she's a senior, and now it's like she has so much to say. She is so exuberant. She's so expressive, and like all of that came out with her gymnastics in the end of her career too, which was so nice to see. But yeah, I see that Kyla. And this Kyla, I was like, wait, it's just like do a move connected to some beautiful skills, do a move. Yeah.
Yeah. In the other countries exist news, I want to talk about Sandra Izbasha's floor, which was the highlight for me, always is for Romania, but in this competition, particularly because of dance element and landing precision, which is everyone was connecting a stag out of their tumbling passes at the 2012 Olympics, but her stag is so real. It's not one of those afterthought, get 1 inch off the ground stags. It's like, I'm going to do an actual stag jump in its correct position. She does a Gojian, a split leap, 1.5/tour jeté full, and it's like around for real life credit. Like everyone would agree on that. Her switch side half is really strong. It was just, that's another one, like appreciate more now is watching Sandra Izbasha's floor. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Before we get to the last rotation, the really weird comments about the Chinese gymnast being forced to use Western music.
That was so weird on the world feed.
Forced.
Yeah. He was the Australian man who's with Shannon on the world did a comment about like, and you feel for the Chinese gymnasts because they're almost forced to use Western music on floor. And I'm like, what?
What do you think they listen to?
I don't get it. Where is this coming from?
They all sit around listening to ancient Chinese opera on their radios.
That's all they're allowed to use.
Obviously, everybody knows that. Oh my God. Oh, and the thing about when Kamova fell off the mats on beam, and then Elfie said, oh, she barely even presented to the judges. Like she was like, oh, she should get a deduction. Hey, you guys, make sure to deduct her for not saluting. That's what I was waiting for right there.
Well, that was the implication there. And I'm like,
right.
She did. She saluted. I mean, she did a like F my life salute because she was not happy with that routine, which is like a given, but it's not like, when Simone got deducted for not saluting a beam and then did the best moment, my favorite moment of the Olympics.
700 hours.
100 hours on floor.
Rotation 4.
When Grishina became a Verb. USA and Russia on floor, China and Romania on vault. So we start with Russia on floor. Basically, we're not going to catch the US at this point, but there was still a glimmer of hope. And then after Alia's floor, which led off the rotation and was sublime, her double Arabian is so good. I know I kind of, I love Aly Mustafina. I crumb on her twisting form. There are also some really good form things, and her double Arabian is so pleasant to watch. Her triple full is different. It's a unique artistic experience. But she had a very good leadoff routine. Then Grishina goes second up. The Grishina moment where she does a back 1.5 on floor, steps out, rounds off onto her elbows, can't do the rest of her tumbling pass. So huge deduction, huge loss of D score, super low score in the 12s, which was super low for then. It's just regular low for now. But kind of, it sealed it that Russia wasn't going to win gold, even though that was already the case. But that moment is an iconic one from this Olympics of just like, oh, that's the worst floor routine you've ever done and happened in the Olympic team final. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then making all of NBC's dreams come true because they cried.
With close-ups of Russians crying, yeah.
Russians crying. And they were like, see, they're undisciplined. And it's like, they're upset because they know they're not going to win and they wanted to win. Which goes to like Afhasaneva's routine of just
which was stupid. A great routine, amazing routine until her double pike at the end, when she landed on her ankles / hands and knees, and then did a roll around salute. Like if you're talking about anyone barely saluting, she was like, "It is over. I am done. I am mad. I am going to roll around in the kind of salute. Bye."
That's what I felt like. I felt like her arms were saying, this is dumb, and I'm really mad the whole time of that routine. And I totally felt for her because that really sucked. The thing that I always remember from this Olympics is Aly's floor, especially how she almost like broke her entire upper body on that very scary landing in warm-ups. And then she did her floor routine. And still, I mean, the fact that it got harder in 2016 is still amazing. Her routine was so hard and so insane. And I still don't understand. I still think someone needs to do, Aly should do her own experiment on her own ligaments and muscles and how this routine is possible. I'm going to stop saying someone should study her. She should study her and figure out.
I think it is telling that we have not seen gymnasts since do Aly's composition.
Yeah.
And you could argue that it's not as rewarded as it could be. I feel that way about double Arabian. Skills are not as rewarded as they could be in the code of points. That it's not that valuable. But other gymnasts have not tried to mimic that approach. The way that, like, when people started doing double tucks, and it was like, whoa, the big highlight first pass of the routine. And then everyone else was like, oh, that's really valuable. And I could probably do that. And then it became everyone's doing a double tuck. Like, people aren't mimicking Aly's composition because they can't.
But yeah, because doing a multiple twist step out into a double Arabian is nuts.
Into something else. Not here.
Eventually into another flip is so hard. And anybody that you see does do that. I mean, the double Arabian just requires so much power to get into it. Like, we see a double tuck sometimes. It's just so incredibly hard. And yeah, forever. It's no wonder when she would talk about doing that conditioning that her coach, she was so tired, and her coach would just he would just make her do the full tumbling when she was too tired to do it. She talks about this in her book. He would just catch her because he wanted to be like, you just have to go for it to get this like conditioning up for this floor routine, and I will catch you and I won't let you fall if you run out of steam, because everybody's done that routine where you're like, it's my conditioning routine, I know I have to do this, and then you do a round off and you're just like, there's no way I am gonna like die, have to stop. So that is the thing. That how do you do your conditioning for floor like this? Like, have someone that can catch you upside down in midair. That's the trick.
In other countries' exist news, it is wild to me to think about the idea that China was like regressing here from the gold medal in 2008, which they were because they finished fourth here, and like not having enough power on vault on a team with 3 hit Yurchenko double fulls. Well, 2.5 hit Yurchenko double fulls, 3 Yurchenko double fulls that landed on their feet in a team final, which would be amazing. Now, I'd love it. I'd love it for now. So that is interesting. Also, just Canada's 5th place here was very 2022 Worlds when they just hit for bronze. It's a really similar, it's just the level of the other countries was stronger, but it's a really similar thing where just like Ellie Black was like, I am Ellie and you're going to know my name after this because I'm going to hit some amazing routines in this team final and we're going to get 5th. But I want to finish with Jasmine's final question.
Okay.
Could Russia have defeated the USA in this team final?
Yes, because it's gymnastics and you never know what's going to happen. Everyone could get food poisoning at the pre-team camp and not be fully back to having all their energy by the time the team final rolls around. Or, anybody can fall, anything can happen. So yes, it is totally possible. There was a legit shot. I think the US definitely had the advantage on vault because of their 3 Amanars. They could have used 4 Amanars, but you can only count 3 scores. But their form overall, they were always going to score better if they stayed on their feet because of their Amanars. But could Russia have won? Yeah, absolutely. They could have won. They definitely could have beat the US. The US just had to make more mistakes than they made here. They had an excellent meet.
Yeah, the meet the US put up in the team final, no one could have beat that. Like, if you give Russia, you give them back 1.5 points for Grishina's floor and a point for Afanasieva falling, and like a point combined for Mustafina and Komova on beam, maybe half a point for Paseka on vault, they still don't reach the US team total from this team final. If you give them, for these routines, if you give them the best score they got at this entire Olympics, not in the team final, for those routines, they'd still be on 182.404, and the US was on 183.5. So it's still a point difference. So yes, Russia, to your point, yes, Russia could have won, but perfect meet from Russia and the US, perfect meet from Russia and the US has a fall on beam, then we're talking about like a tie. Yep. And it's really close and it's coming down to it. But it had both, one or the other couldn't have happened. Both of those things would have had to happen.
Yep. The US would have had to open the door somewhere for them. But so could it happen? Yes, because anything is possible. Thank you so much to Jasmine for this commission. Thank you to all of our Club Gym Nerd members for being Club Gym Nerd members, for helping us go to the upcoming World Championships in Jakarta, where it's taking 3 days to get there. We take off one day and we land 2 days later. So you can imagine it's a super cheap trip for us. Also, we are going to be covering coming up in September. We have September 13th, 14th, the Paris World Cup, where this is the preview of Worlds. This is such an exciting meet. Gadarova is back. Namor is going to be there. So many gymnasts. Then we have a World Cup in Sambate, and then we have the U.S. team selection camp at the end of September. We know Samana Sakra is out because she is not feeling her absolute best, and she'll go back to Elite, but she's going to go to UCLA for now. And next week we have an interview with Nola Mathews, and she'll talk about her decision to go to UCLA early. You can still get tickets for our Morgan Hurd live show and find all the inside scoop from a world champion. And if you want to become a Club Gym Nerd member like Jasmine,
you may go to a website called gymnastic.com to become a Club Gym Nerd member now.
So until Friday at noon Pacific or 8 GMT, when we do our live Q&A or send your questions in ahead of time behind the scenes at noon Pacific, remember to take up on gay, split on rights. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Friday.